bring in the other churches as periphery on committees, and when you reach out to them, just say, yeah, we are still looking for help on these committees like this. And if they say something like, could we have our worship team come, say we've already got that worship team all locked down, but we have room here and here and here. And this way you get them to come in. We're going to keep talking about more opportunities to involve more women in your events. And honestly, you guys, one of the key strategies for growing your women's ministry in 2024 and beyond is to bring women into the helping phase. Don't just ask them to come and be entertained. Women are so busy, and it's hard for them to just come and be entertained, leave, and then feel like they're a real part of the family. If you're a real part of a family, guess what? You help with dinner, you help with cleanup, you bring something. That's how you feel like you're part of a family. So what we want to do is we're going forward into 2024 with our women's ministries is we want to involve them both in attending, but also in leading and helping to organize. So that is section number 1. You are in for a big treat all afternoon. We're going to go back to back fast like this. You can watch these over and over again. You can highlight on your own notes. You can highlight which ones you want to go back and see. And right now it is time for us to bring on our next guest. It's time to welcome our first guest, Angela Donadio. She's the women's ministry leader and missions director at River of Life Church, a multi-ethnic church outside of Washington, D.C. She's the mom of 2 adult children and wife to Dale, the lead pastor for 30 years. She holds a Master of Leadership and Ministry and loves to share creative ways to maximize your leadership potential, develop emerging leaders, and collaborate for kingdom purpose. Welcome, Angela. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much, Marnie. What a joy to be here.
You just barely got your feet on the ground. You've been abroad.
Well, this is a place to be today, so I'm so happy to be home. Thank you.
Yeah, and you guys have just done an amazing work there, growing your church from small to large, and I'm so excited to have you share with us now just how to grow, like from where you are to where you think God is taking you. Yeah. So let's start with small and how to get bigger.
Absolutely. We have such a short amount of time, Marnie. I'm going to cut to the chase and give 3 P's today that I think will help women, because we can look at platforms, we can look at what other conferences are doing, and sometimes we get caught in that comparison trap. And I want to encourage women first and foremost, just start where you are, be who God has called you to be. You don't need to be anyone else. You just need to be who God has called you to be. But the first P is to know your people, know who you are ministering to. And that's going to shape the way that you do your ministry. Secondly, know your passion. What has God uniquely equipped you to, empowered you for? This is your skill set. This is your spiritual gifts. All of those combined help you to know what you're passionate about, because nothing is more frustrating, Marnie, than serving in an area that really isn't your God-given passion. You're going to figure that out pretty quickly. And then knowing your purpose. What is the purpose for the event? Is it for young moms? Is it for senior adults? Is it for all the women in your community? And that will shape the way that you go about putting it together, and who to invite, how to get that off the ground. But those are 3 kind of frameworks. Your people, that should set the tone. Who am I ministering to? Ask the Lord to give you a heart for the people that are going to be at this event and how you should structure it. For example, we at our church have a mom's night coming out. So I'm thinking through, what are the needs of the moms right now? Kids are graduating from high school. We're going into new grades. We're starting a summer. We're going to put a panel discussion together. How can that best serve our community? And I have a speaker right here in my own community who wrote a book called Warrior Mother. And so I'm bringing her in so that they're not always hearing from me, but they're hearing from other voices who understand their heart and their need.
Yeah, it's so important to make sure that whatever you're doing is addressing the needs of that audience. Yeah,
absolutely.
Huge. Another thing you wanted to share with us was the calendar planning tips.
Yeah, and I do what, a lot of people call it different things, but really it's reverse engineering. So you put a date on, And then you start backing up how you're going to need to plan that. So once you know your people, your purpose, okay, I'm going to plan a conference, let's say for 2025. It can take that long, especially if you want to bring in a speaker who maybe their calendar books up, early. One of the biggest things that will frustrate you as leaders and those that are coming to events is planning too late, because then you're just in a crunch mode, and maybe you didn't breathe into what the heart of it really should be because you're just panicking trying to get it done. So give yourself a minimum of 3 months, Marnie, and really I would say 6 months out, and a year if you're planning something really large. We do 3 to 4 events a year with our women, but then I plan other things outside of our church. And so I have a constant rolling calendar, and things are in different stages. And that'll kind of make you go crazy if you don't, put it in a schedule, and be realistic about that timeline and that schedule, and give yourself grace. It's better to do less and do it with excellence than to try to put too many things on the calendar.
I love that. And you'll burn your team out as well. We're going to talk about collaboration next. If you're doing too much, people will have to step down because they just can't keep up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you were just mentioning a minute ago, like building teams. And so the silo approach to ministry is gone. It's not effective. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to be only responsible for you coming up with the entire vision of the event. And I used to think that I need to come up with all the ideas and it was all up to me. But we're so much stronger together in collaboration.
Yes.
Now, one person has to be the tip of the spear. One person is the visionary. One person is setting the pace. That's why knowing your people, your passion, and your purpose is crucial. So if someone has an idea and you say, that's a great idea, but it doesn't fit the purpose of this event, let's table that for another event. Or, wow, what a wonderful idea that I didn't think of. Let's incorporate that into this event. So collaborating brings together great ideas and uses the skill sets and the strengths of other people. Marnie, I'm not a decorator, so I might have a vision for something, but I don't know how to bring that to pass. And using other people's voices, their skills, their perspectives, you're going to have a event when you collaborate with other people.
It is so important that we do this, not only because it takes the whole event to a different level. When we collaborate, we actually have, I like to use the phrase surfacing the wisdom of the group, where you allow everybody to feed in. But yeah, like you said, and I think that this, especially this webinar today, for you guys, women's ministry leaders, you want to, for sure, be the one that retains the ability to say yes, maybe later, or no. And that's okay for you to do that. Somebody has to do that, because you're not going to be able to do all the ideas everybody has. And you have to be firm enough to say that. But I think also to ourselves, right, where we have all these ideas and it's like, well, you know what, this time that idea could work better. I can save mine for another time.
Yeah. In fact, I threw out an idea today, for example, to our children's pastor. And I said, what about for the mom's night out, the kids do a karaoke night the same time? That's something that we've been thinking of planning. But she said, I think because we want all the moms to attend, I'm probably going to use men to spearhead. We're going to do bounce houses. We're going to do other things that the karaoke night needs to go to a different night. So that's where you have a vision. But if it's not going to serve, in other words, I'd rather have the moms present and do a karaoke night a different night. The moms are what this particular event was for, and that's driving the decisions. And that way, in collaborating, you're all circling the same idea, and you're like, you're right, this is better served this way, and hold that for another time.
I love that. And collaboration, for those of you who aren't familiar with that term or the concept, I just call it body life. It's what Jesus loves. He loves for us to come together, work together. And, one of the things you came in here talking about was starting where you are in building. So real quick, in about a minute or a minute and a half, just share us like where you started and where you are now.
Absolutely. And I'm the pastor's wife at our church, and we've been here for almost 30 years, Marnie. So where I am now in ministry is not where I started. So start with the people that you have. what is the greatest need of your particular area or your particular women's ministry? Is it working moms? Is it moms that are staying at home? What is the need? That's back to the people. Start with where you are. Then ask the Lord to give you a vision to grow that. By next year, for example, I want to add this into our women's ministry.
Yes.
For me, for example, for one of my classes for graduate program, I realized that an underserved demographic in our area was young adult women. So I started an intensive just for young adult women, ages 18 to 28, to target that area. But start with what you have and then let the Lord grow that. As he brings a team around you with their passions and their heart and their strengths, then it's not all on your shoulders. Do what you're gifted at. And if you're starting small, let one of your primary focuses be building a team. Not just how many events can you put on the calendar, but how many people can you bring into your circle and collaborate with.
Oh, just love that. And such wise advice. Yeah. Don't try to grow too fast.
Yeah.
Let God help you. Let God help you. And if you start feeling burned out, I always go back to the Holy Spirit never burns out.
That's so good.
So there's either he's moving you on, he's bringing someone in, or you're doing too much.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So just get in prayer again and go. Angela is so great. I love you, darling. Thank you for being here.
You're so welcome, Marnie. Thank you for your heart for women.
Oh, yeah. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, and we're just going to keep going right now. We would have had Hannah was going to be here, but unfortunately she is actually in the hospital today. So Hannah is not here with us. So we are going to go to the next session. It's her session, but I know so many of us can address this. I wanted to just talk a few minutes about it, and then I'm going to have a couple other gals come up. If you guys have ideas that you want to share about growing, increasing numbers, just wave your hands and Victoria will add you to the screen here. So what I wanted to do here was just take a moment and just let's pray for Hannah, because this was a surprise for her that she's in the hospital. So Jesus, we just lift up Hannah right now and ask that you would continue to heal her body. Thank you, Father, for what you've already done. And she just reached out. She said, praise God for the miracles that he's already done here in this emergency. But also we just ask that you would continue and fully heal her and bring her back to full health just as soon as possible. And we miss her here today. So thank you, Jesus. All right. Okay. So what I wanted to do first here was talk about why numbers matter. This was important to Hannah to start with this one, because we don't want to be all about the numbers. Just like we said, it's okay for you to grow from where you are. If you start with 2 people or with 12 people or with 22 people or whatever, just start where you are and then grow from there. But numbers are important because of the story of Jesus as the shepherd who goes to find the one. And so 99 are there, but he goes to find the one. And I love the Jen Johnson song, For the One, that Jesus came for the one, and that we get to, as we minister to the group, but minister always for the one. And so numbers are important because each woman matters. So I want to share a couple things that I'm going to bring on a couple gals here to help me with this section where Hannah can't be here. So number one is to host the kind of events your women value. We kind of touched on this already. But it is imperative that you don't just hunker down into what you've always done. One of the things, after I was a women's ministry leader for 20 years at our church, and I stepped down and some other gals came in, and one of the first things they did is they did away with several of our annual events, and they changed it all up, and they did all different things. And if you think that was easy to watch, it wasn't easy to watch. However, they had good success at bringing in some gals who had been alienated because they weren't part of that history. So I want to encourage you, don't wait until you step down to have that happen. Encourage gals to bring in their fresh ideas and to do fresh things and to do things that are really relevant to the women that are in your group today. Not those only who were in your group for 20 or 30 or 40 years, but those who are coming into your group today. Really important. Number 2, personal invites. This is the number one way to increase your attendance at all of your events, is to personally invite people to come. Don't just personally invite people that are outside of your church, also personally invite people that are in your church. So one of the ways we did this is we divided up the church directory, and we added names of people we knew that had come after the directory was published. we divided up the names into our team. Each of us took a bunch of names, and we would either personally call or send a postcard or actually talk to them at church. And we would check them off when we did. So we knew that we had invited everybody. And then also beyond your leadership team personally inviting, you want to provide 1 to 5 postcards per woman in your church, especially if you have mailboxes. Put a little set of 5 postcards in your mailbox about your event that's coming up. Put a little ribbon on it and put a little instruction card on the front. Hand these out to women you know who would love to learn more about Jesus. And let your gals do the personal invites to their friends and family members who are outside of your church. Finally, recruit gals to help. Again, as mentioned earlier, in the hotel model of doing a major event, the more involved she is, the more likely she is to come. If you assign her to decorate a table at your event, maybe it's a Christmas theme and you want to decorate all the tables with different women's Christmas stuff. If she's doing a table, she's more likely to come, and typically she'll bring a friend or family member to help her set the table. So it's just another way to help gals to invite people they know. Okay, Victoria, did we have anybody who raised their hand who wanted to come in and share something? All right, Linette's here. Hey, Linette. Okay, just one second. I think we got to unmute you there.
Okay.
There we go. Now we can hear you. Welcome, Linette.
Hey, what a great topic this is. Yeah, so one thing that I know women really look for is, what's in it for me? Is this really relevant to the season of life that I'm in? So I call this season of life events, where maybe in one big group, you have the empty nesters, you have the young moms, you have the college students, the singles, so really identifying those season of life and really celebrate those things. And that's when they're going to get excited, and then really put a call out for them to invite their friends that maybe aren't in the church, but this is their season of life.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's reminding me, we did one event that we did for several years, which was super fun, as we had each table area was set up like a month of the year, January, and one that looked like February, and one that looked like March, like that each month. And then we had everybody's birthday party, and we all came together and celebrated everybody's birthday, and they sat around or close to the table with their birthday month. Just anything, like you say, the seasons are so important, and there's so many seasons, and even, new baby and all kinds of different seasons that are going on. Thank you so much for that. We're going to hear more from you later. Okay, anybody else in the green room that had an idea about how to involve women? Hey, welcome to you.
Hey, Marnie. I really took a different take, but I love everything that you've heard so far. But I was in Bible school, which wasn't yesterday, but I heard a quote, and it's a little controversial today, but I think it comes up with the same idea. It's a quote by John Wesley that says, "Light yourself on fire with passion, and people will come from miles to see you burn." Mm-hmm. And I have just always loved that quote. I think it's because when I was in ministry school, we all struggle, or most of us do as women. God, are you sure I'm called? And, I have some things in my past that would, you would think would disqualify me. And these are the kinds of quotes that remind me, of course, there's other scriptures. But he told me when I was in Bible school, if you have the goods, people won't care whether you're male or female or whatever, but just get the goods, and then they will come, because they're looking for authenticity. They're looking for someone who has the truth and that can help them.
So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. We're going to hear more from you in a bit here too. All right. Anybody else that had an idea about growing numbers? We have Victoria. Is there anybody else with their hand up? Not right now. Okay, so you guys can keep sharing about that in the chat there. Your ideas for helping to increase your numbers. If you had something that worked for you, be sure to include that. Maybe right now, if you want to put in the chat your name and approximately how many gals attend your women's ministry events. Not how many gals are in your church, but how many gals come out. When you have an event, how many gals come out? And this is going to be all over the board, I'm sure. But, some churches are so small and other churches are very large, and it makes a difference how many gals come. Of course, some getting the gals to come out, the ones that probably you already know about are to put it out in advance, to put it on the back of the bathroom stall doors so that they see when they're in the bathroom. Make sure to invite them in the bulletin. One of the things we have loved to do coming up to a women's event is to share a skit of some kind. That's always a way to increase attendance, is to just a couple weeks before the event share a skit, and then the week before the event. And by the way, the skit doesn't have to be women. It can be dads who are going to be at home taking care of the kids or whatever, but just to increase awareness and add some fun there. And then also, one of the things we love to do is the week before to hand out some kind of a gift to the women, like a bottle of water with the label about the event, or chocolate, a little chocolate candy with the label about the event, and just to increase the excitement about what's going on and that they can come. And then, of course, like Angela mentioned too, the key is to have an event that is relevant to them. You can do all the advertising you want. If the event isn't relevant to them, they're not going to come. So make sure that it is something relevant. Another thing we learned, and then we're going to go on here, but another thing we learned was to make sure that if you are going to include the word games in your description of any kind of a women's event, you want to clarify whether it is table games or action games, because a lot of gals will not come if it is action games. They feel like they don't want to have to be, running a relay race or something like that. And so if you are having games, make sure to clarify who your games are for and what kind they are. I'm excited right now to have us move along to the next section, and let's see who we have next. Our next speaker is Candace Alcosiba. She is a prolific blogger and writer and married to Reverend Lindsay Alcosiba, and they minister at Redemption Point Alliance Church. She's been in ministry for 30 years and is passionate about sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ to the lost, and her heart is also passionate about growing women in their faith. Welcome to you, Candace.
Hello, welcome.
Welcome. Good to have you here. So
Thank
great
you.
to have you. You're going to be talking to us about leading like Jesus. And this is just, this is the huge opportunity we all have, right? And we all want women to come out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Once they get to us, what are they going to find? So talk to us first about culture, about how we can lead like Jesus in this culture.
Well, this is a tough one because this is a real difficult culture that we are living in right now. I mean, it's broken, it's fractured, and he's just asking us to rise up and lead these women. The biggest thing we're missing, I think the one thing that we're seeing lots of in many churches is everybody wants to debate and argue, and we lose women, we lose people. And the best thing, I'm not saying Jesus, he didn't challenge people. He didn't challenge he did challenge the Pharisees, but he wasn't about arguing with them. He was about challenging them and getting them to look deeper into what he was about, what the scriptures say. And I think with this culture, we lose a lot of people just by the way we handle certain situations, the way we handle certain topics.
Yeah.
And there's a way of being sensitive without compromising your convictions. We need to be tough on the inside, but soft on the outside. We're called to love. That's the greatest, that is the only way we are going to reach this culture is through love, because they're not going to listen to us and they're not going to follow us unless they know they can trust us, unless they know that we hear them. And like I said, it's not about compromising and changing our values so we align with this broken culture, because we're not called to do that. Romans 12:2 tells us that we are called to be in this world but not of it, but we are called to love well. And when we start doing that, changing that, making that posture shift and really showing and demonstrating love, we start winning women over of all different kinds.
Yeah, it's just huge. I like, I heard it said this way recently, somewhere along the line, we flipped the Great Commandment with the Great Commission, and we forgot about the loving part, and we just started the, getting them whatever way we can, and you have to start with the Great Commandment first, where we love God and we love others with his love. And that's how we win them, by the love, not by the fisherman tactics, hooks them and pulls them. So, I love that. Right now, you say it's critical right now for this loving piece to be so forefront. And why is that?
I think just from what we have seen, we're finding more and more people leaving the church, leaving the scriptures, church hurt, ministry hurt, all kinds of things. People are just broken. We're just in a real broken time in our history. And that brokenness comes from a lot of different things. You know, it could come from the church, it could come from family, it could come from friends. Anything can happen. But these people are broken. And when you are that broken, it starts shaping your convictions, you know, and some people go down routes where I'm going to turn this way because this is the place I can find love and I can find security and I can find my hope. And it's they could be going down a path that is only going to lead them to more hurt. And so I think it's so important to reach people and meet them right where they are at, right in their brokenness. It's not our job to fix people. It's not our job to fix women. It's our job to bring the love of Jesus Christ. And how that looks is going to look differently for every woman. Some women, you're going to start going down this road and you're going to be able to eventually bring up the gospel truth. But some women, you just need to love them, and walk with them back to a place where they can even hear correctly or think correctly.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's so important. We were just with a bunch of LGBT people this weekend. And at one point, there was so much love happening in the space. And at one point, there was a he-she that was just sobbing in the arms of one of the workers. Had never really felt that kind of love at all, ever. Never. And I think we don't understand. A lot of times we make assumptions that our gals are coming from the same background we are.
Right.
And we have no idea.
No.
The hurt that's there is sometimes so excruciating and so deep that really all they need is someone one time in their life to truly love them.
Yeah. And it sounds cliche, you know, it sounds like when we just say, you know, but isn't that what Christ said? You know, he tells us over and over. And then Paul in the New Testament, you know, we are to love, you know, it is not our job to chastise. And I think the church over the decades has been viewed very differently just because of the way we've handled situations. And again, it doesn't mean we forsake our convictions, but we just have to do it better.
Right. I like that. We need to love better. Okay. So you say Jesus never had pitfalls in leading. So what are you talking about and why? How could that be?
You know what, the thing I believe that when we look at Christ as a leader, you know, there's so many books out there on great leadership and stuff. And that's a great thing. But the best place to look is the model Jesus Christ gave to us. He told us how to lead with humility and compassion and with a servant heart and a servant attitude. But the thing I really believe strongly that we forget is Jesus said in John, he said, I only can do what the Father has allowed me to do. He was humble. He came at it humbly. And then the most important thing is Jesus was a man of prayer. You know, we see that he was always getting away to places to pray, to be alone with the Lord. And I think sometimes we can get so caught up in our ministry and what we're doing and the programs that we have that it kind of turns into just that, programs. We are trying to please women and create all this stuff. But if we start tapping into the power source, that's the source that's going to it's going to change the lives of these women that we were just talking about, the broken women, the fallen women, the struggling women. We need to be in prayer. We need discernment and wisdom that can only come from Jesus Christ. So I think he never had any pitfalls because he was so connected to the Holy Spirit. Everything he did, we see miracle after miracle. It was only happened after he came out of a time of prayer with the Father.
Right.
And the thing I love about it is his disciples, that small group of men that he was leading. You know, they get to a place and they say, Lord, teach us to pray. And they had been walking with him for some time. And they never said, teach us to teach us to preach, teach us to do miracles. They said, teach us to pray, because they had this great understanding that is the power source. That is the power source that we need as women. We're up against some tough stuff and we need to be prayed up for every woman that comes into our ministry, into our church, into our life, that we are counseling them, leading them, the way Christ would want us. And that can only happen through prayer. We're just not equipped to do that on our own.
We aren't. Exactly. No, I love that. I love that. And I don't remember who said it was, but that's Satan scoffs at church events that are not covered in prayer. It is the place. It is the place we have to start. And then I think moving forward in love as well. And when we look at Jesus's life, one of the reasons too, that I feel like he was able to minister so effectively while on earth was because he did not judge the sinners.
No.
He judged the religious people who were judging the sinners. I mean, it's like, we have to get this clear who he was really upset with. He really wasn't upset with people who were trapped in sin. I mean, and sometimes that's where our focus is to be upset with the people trapped in sin.
Right.
He came to free them, and that's what we're here to help do also. But he was really upset with the people who were the holier than thou and the making life harder people. So just love this so much. Love you. So glad you could join us today. All right, thanks. And you guys can learn more about Candy over at firstsheprays.com, and also invite her to speak at womenspeakers.com. So thanks so much for being here.
So much.
It's time for our next guest. Cynthia Martin serves at Believer's House, a discipleship church ministry. She is married and has 9 children. She loves to read and eat out. She's a lover of Jesus and his people, and her purpose is to help Christians discover their identity, gifts, and purpose so that they can become who Christ created them to be and do what he created them to do. Welcome to you, Cynthia. Welcome.
Hey,
welcome.
Marnie.
Good to have you back here on the stage. All right. So you are going to be talking to us about addressing the myths that hold your group back. And there are some things that kind of have crept into the churches, I'll maybe say religious thinking, whatever, that cause us to not be able to reach our community, our women for Christ. So let's start with the why.
Absolutely. Marnie, I think that what happens, we're in women's ministry, or we're women that are in ministry to serve, or we should be, right? But sometimes we get caught in the service trap. And we serve, when I was a young woman, we had this acronym that we used, JOY, Jesus, others, and yourself. And sometimes what happens, I've probably dated myself there, but we use that model, and it's great. But the problem with it is we never get to the why, the yourself part. We never have enough energy for ourselves, and we begin to serve out of an empty cup. And we know that the Lord told us in Mark 12, 30 through 31, that we're to love him first, right, with all of our soul, but we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. And we get stuck in this trap that we think we have to serve everybody, of which we do. But unless we love ourselves and take care of ourselves and fill our cup first, we won't have anything to serve other people. And so the why is always first, to have that emotional and spiritual connection with the Lord first. And then out of that, we have the wherewithal to do what we need to do in our community, in our churches, in our relationships, because then we treat people as Jesus would treat them, not as we would. Or that's what I found in my own life, that I have to do that.
For sure.
Sure.
Yeah. And I love the principle. I love the beautiful way that God set this up, is I simply can't give something I don't have.
Exactly.
If I don't have peace in a chaotic situation, if I don't have peace, I can't share peace with you. It has to come to me and through me in order for you to get it. And so I think that's the why is both the letter Y, enjoy you, but it's also the why. Why are you doing this? It's because God created us to be these flow through vessels where his love, his light, his life can flow through us to the women who come across our paths. So beautiful.
So
yeah.
true.
There's another myth, the myth of the perfect Christian.
Yeah. And, we would never, or maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I think I'm pretty clear here with all of us. None of us are going to say that out of our mouth. I am the perfect Christian. Yeah. But we strive to be. We may not say it out of our mouth, but we fall into a trap. Women ministry, people in women's ministry, or women ministers do, because we want to do the best that we can for the Lord. But there's this weight thing that we have to be very careful with. And those of us who have struggled with perfectionism, because of our insecurities in our past, sometimes still overtake us where we are today. And I get caught in that trap where I'll be just running because I'm kind of a high energy person and I can do multiple things at the same time. And so I'm out and I'm getting exhausted. I'm working and the Lord's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing this for you and it's going to be great and it's going to be successful. And he's like, why are you doing this again? And then he asked me, so is this for me or is this for you? You know, and sometimes we have to check ourselves and we get caught in that myth that we have to be superwoman, super Christian. And it's a myth that we have to, because we can't really relate to anyone. No one can relate to us because they know they're not perfect. And so we have to be real. You know, it's so important that we don't pretend. You know, it's too easy to fall into that trap. And I think it's true. Every woman in ministry that I've ministered to and been friends with struggles with this at times. And I think it's a myth that we need to smash, that we can't be perfect.
I was doing an interview with two pastors' wives, and one of them was talking about there was a neighbor, a backyard kitty corner from their house that showed up at church one Sunday, and she's like, "Oh, you came! So great to have you here." Well, then during the next week, she had stopped over, and she's like, "So what made you ever come to our church?" And she said, "Well, I heard you yelling at your kids one day out the back door," and the pastor's wife was just mortified. She's like, well, how did that make you want to come to our church? And she said, well, because I knew you were a real person.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Yeah.
Candace said, the woman that was just before me, she was speaking about lead like Jesus. And, you know, we just need to be so careful that we don't get into trying to perform or people please. You know, about people pleasing. We need to God please. But be real in our inadequacy to be perfect, or not even strive to be perfect. So absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that women they're really hungry, especially the younger generation is so fed up with make believe. They really are looking for an authentic soul. And it's not that we're supposed to delight in our weaknesses. Like I just want to feed that weakness, not at all that, but at the same time, just to be honest that we are people. That our leaders are people, our pastors are people, our pastors' wives are people, the leaders of our small groups, they're just people and they make mistakes. And all you have to do is read the Bible a few minutes and you'll know that all those people made mistakes too. So, okay, what is the myth that leads to burnout?
Well, I think it was interesting that Angela Donadio, who started out, I thought, oh, she's got what I'm going to talk about. But, you know, that's a setup from the Lord. It must be something that someone needs to hear, right? Yeah. That we're all created to do and be and do something unique. And we need to be who we are, which we've kind of been saying. But, you know, in the secular arena, we'd say, stay in your lane. And so it's so important that we don't try to be everybody. We don't try to do it all, be all, do all. We be who we are. And that's not grammatically correct, but it speaks good. So we be who we are. And we stay in our own lane. We stay close to our roots. We stay, you know, Jesus said, follow him. And so we do who we are and we're authentic in that. And so there's so many myths that we deal with as women. I'm not sure about men. I'm not one. But, you know, we can fall back on our personal relationship with him, and in our ministries must flow out from that place, in that, you know, intimacy that we have with him. And people in my ministry, they know who I am because I'm very out front, and they know that I'm a very tunneled I'm working on tomorrow or next week or next year, and I forget the todays. And so I, on purpose, put people who are the today people around me so they can tug on my shoulder and say, hey, you know, you're going to lose this woman if you don't stop here and and we need to be aware of that, that not everybody's where we are, but I have to be who I am. And I surround myself with people who are different than I am to help us so we have a more well-rounded ministry. One of my friends is very loving and I'm very to the point. And so sometimes I'll say, hug her, you know, because that's just who she is. And I just tell everybody what to do, you know. So,
I love that. No, that's great.
And it works.
It's so important to recognize that we can't be everything to everybody because we just aren't everything. We aren't everything. And yet we can be fully who we are in Christ, and we can come fully in that way. I think the fastest way to burnout is to be doing something like somebody else is doing it instead of like how God is calling you to do it. And just to know who you are, to be yourself, to let God use that, use your strengths, surround you with people that can shore up your weaknesses, right? And not be too proud to recognize you've got them.
For sure. It's exhausting to try to be someone else because it's an act, you have to perform, and you just be who you are. It's so much easier. And people know when you're being real and when you're trying to be something that you're not.
Absolutely. And again, it's back to that authenticity piece. You really want to be a real person and not even try to be that all things to all men, even though, we can love them the best we can. We love everybody the best we can, but we recognize. Great. Oh, this is so good. So good. You guys can learn more about Cynthia over at cynthiamartin.org. Also, she's at womenspeakers.com. So great to have you here with us, my dear. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, good. Okay, well, our next speaker was going to be Sherry Poundstone, but she is also out today. She can't be here because her mother's in hospice, and she needed to be there today. So let's just pause for a moment and lift her up in prayer. Father, we just lift up Sherry and her mom right now, and just thank you that you are taking care of everything that concerns them. I pray for just a beautiful time today together for them, and also just for comfort for Sherry as her mom's in this last stage of life. In Jesus' precious name, amen. So we are going to talk next about how to do stress-free women's ministry and outreach events. If you guys who are in the green room want to help with ideas, just raise your hand, and maybe Victoria, I could have you, when you got everybody ready, just put up a number of fingers for me until I recognize how many people wanted to share something on this topic. I'm going to start here, stress-free women's outreach events. First of all, again, back at the page that you registered on, you will find underneath that, let me take this off of here, you'll find the link to 3 freebies that are available to you there. So one is how to start a women's ministry. One is some templates to help you plan women's ministry events. And then the other one is how to plan a women's retreat. So those are going to be really helpful to you. Right now, I just want to talk to you for a moment about the right tools for ministry, which is that middle resource. And once you know what kind of events you want to host with your women's ministry, you want to come up with templates that you can use again and again and again. So some templates are how, what it takes to run a baby shower or a bridal shower, or what it takes to run your annual retreat, the different categories and departments and, group heads, coordinators, and things like that. You want to have sheets like that. And then you can either, if you have a smaller group and everybody and do it that way, you can pass it around and just have people sign up for things, or you can actually go ahead and invite the people to the different categories or coordinator levels that you have. The right tools for ministry just helps you kind of get all those things in mind. If you haven't done a lot of stuff like this before, it will help you with that. Okay, and Victoria, did you have a number for me there? Okay, all right. So then how to select the right type of event. This one is when you're thinking about what you want to actually host. And it's important. We've been talking about this so far already. You want to have events that are relevant to your women. There has never been a time in history, I think post-COVID is so unique, because women before COVID, it was already shifting toward this, but before COVID, women were running absolutely wild. They were going top to bottom, running kids every which way and doing things and being so busy. And what COVID did is it brought everybody home. And a lot of women realized, wow, I had been going way too many places, way too fast, way too much. And a lot of gals really pulled back and aren't doing that anymore. So what we want to do with our events now is we want to make sure that they are targeted to the needs of our women in our groups, and so that we can make sure that we have events that they want to come to. Another thing is you want to include service events. And if I could, I'd love to bring Linette on to talk about this for just a minute. Yeah. So let's bring Linette on, because you are you are the guru when it comes to sharing, to doing service events. You have found that this is such a great way, and that women actually really need this. They need to help serve.
They do. They feel like they're part of something bigger. Everybody wants to be part of something where it's going to make an impact, it's going to reach. And you know, a lot of things happen when you create, I'm going to be talking about this later, create that environment.
Yeah.
And, you know, the conversations start to happen, the connections, the organic connectivity happens with women or people who need people, you know, even in different age groups or different, you know, situations. They're just like, oh, well, I know this person. It's just all those God moments happen when you're doing service events. And, you know, it's like going on a missions trip, right? You never really, it just pulls at your heartstrings so much. And you go deeper in your spiritual walk when you're really reaching out and you're really serving. And it makes you take a step back and say, okay, well, maybe I don't have to be so stressed out about this, that, and the other thing. The other tip, I think, I was just sitting back here and saying, simplify.
Yes.
Simplify. We have made things so crazy. And it's just like, and I'm like the last gal. You know, I could be like, okay, just focus on the task. But the Lord has really been intentionally having me focus on the people. Like, really take a breath. Linette, look at who's right in front of you and really be intentional with them.
Yeah. I think one of the things you and I have talked about too is that the women today, if they don't get involved, really deeply involved in the serving side of things, they don't feel like they're part of the family.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And everyone is longing for belonging. We talked about this.
Yes.
Longing for belonging. And that is truly how women stay connected, how people stay connected, because they feel like they're needed.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. So the right type of event then is going to be the event that has women feeling like they're part of it, and like they know, they know that they're really needed. They know that they're not just attending to attend an event. You know, used to be, especially in my mother's time, and even toward into my era, that women would come to every event that you had, because there was a sense of that family. There was a sense of that belonging. And my mother-in-law would say it like this: if the church is hosting something, of course we're going to go, because that's family. And we've really lost that. We've lost that. And the gals, the younger women, don't think about it like that at all. They judge every single event as a standalone decision. In fact, a lot of the younger generation judge every single Sunday morning as a standalone decision. Like for me and my husband and our kids, there was never any choice. We didn't get up on Sunday and say, should we go to church or not? We just, of course, we're going to church. And that's how it was with women's ministries for so many decades. And that's not how it is anymore. So it increases our need to make sure that we are giving them the events they want, as well as sharing, having them help share the weight, the burden of carrying it. And not only that, but getting them involved, just like a family member would be involved. And then Sherry had also why a theme can help. And this was one of the things she was going to address. I too love themes so much, because the theme gives you something to hook onto, so that even when they forget the exact words of the event, the speaker's words or the testimony words or whatever, they remember that when they walked in, there was this beautiful well at the beginning, and they threw their prayer requests into the well or whatever. They have this tangible image, or possibly it's a floral thing, where everything is, bursting with God's creativity and color. When you go with a theme, it helps you to decorate, but more importantly, it helps you to lock in that concept, that idea for the women who are there, so that when they think back through their life and what they've learned, a lot of times they can't remember the words, but they remember how they felt, or they remember what God taught them at that particular themed event. Okay, Victoria, is there anything else that we wanted to do there? No, okay. I'm going to do the 3P key to stress-free events. And this is prayerful planning and preparation. So as you are thinking about planning your event, and when we say stress-free, there's good stress and there's bad stress. Okay. So the bad stress is the stress that knocks you down. The stress that is actually hurting your immune system. It's causing you anxiety and fear and worry. But then there's the good stress. The good stress is the stress that is meant to be there. So if you think of good stress as the air in a tire, if you have a bicycle and you have the right amount of stress, of pressure in that tire, then that bike's going to just go rolling. And if you have less air than you need, if you have less stress than you need in the tire, it's going to be flat. It's going to go ka-thunk, 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 going to be really hard to ride. If you have too much air in the tire, it's going to blow. So the bad stress is when it's the too much. It's like now this has gone from a good amount of pressure into a bad amount of pressure. So when we're talking about a stress-free event, that's what we're talking about. Not that there's no stress or no pressure involved. There will always be stress and pressure involved in anything you do for Jesus. That's just how it is. If you think about blood pressure, you have to have some blood pressure or you're dead. You don't want high blood pressure and you don't want low blood pressure. You want it to be in that right safe zone. So that's what we're talking about here. And Sherry wanted to share with you the 3P key to stress-free events, which is prayerful planning and preparation. Keep prayer as the number one thing. Plan well, be prepared, and then enjoy the event with Jesus. And a good event, a well-planned event, gives you the most flexibility possible so that you don't have to be worrying about every detail while you're going. You're actually be able to be present in the moment as your event is going live. All right, so keep sharing your prayers, and we are going to move along to the next section. Reverend Cheryl Hurley is the beacon of inspiration that leads the Faithful and Fabulous Women's Ministry. With 43 years of marriage, 2 adult children, and 4 grandchildren, her wisdom resonates deeply. Through her empowering words, audiences rediscover resilience, embrace purpose, and awaken a renewed spirit. Welcome to you, Sherril.
Welcome. It is so good to be here, Marnie. I have enjoyed everything that I have heard. I am looking forward to our conversation.
Well, I always love Minutes with Sherril, so welcome to you too. Good. Okay. We're going to be talking in this section about working with wounded women. And this is your heart. And I tell you what, this is one of the things that's kind of a new we've always had wounded women, but we've never had it to the extent that we have now, where we can look out at our group of women and know for sure that in our group of women, however big it is, we've got some who have been abused, some who have had abortions, some who have church hurt, some who have never had a father. So, we have got wounded women just all throughout our women's ministries. And if we ignore this, if we just pretend like everybody's fine and minister at that level, we really miss the opportunity to do what Jesus has called us to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So give us the number one key to success.
Well, you know what, Marnie, as I was sitting listening, and I took some notes, but I was just so moved when Candace talked about something that's key. When you're talking about people that are wounded and women who come from all walks of life, there is something that is key, and it's making sure that we exercise active listening with sensitivity.
Yeah.
It's not about our story. It's about their story and what they're going through. And it takes us to be able to exercise that with not only sensitivity, but also with empathy. Like there's a genuine concern, because when people engage you, and especially as ministry leaders, they're looking at you as the leader to see if they can trust you, because most times these people have lost trust in people. So as a ministry leader and you're leading teams, that's something that you want to put an emphasis on, the importance of the sensitivity and making sure that they feel valued, they feel heard, and they feel safe, and they feel like they can trust you. They can trust you.
This circles back around. So this whole thing is, it's all integrated, of course, but it's one of the main reasons why we need to be authentic, is because if they can sniff, and they have very good They have very good detectors, don't they? If you're being legit or not. But if they can sniff that you're just being a fake,
Yes.
then why would they trust you? They haven't been able to trust others in the past. And if you are being fakey about being so perfect and being so put together, they can't trust you either.
They really can't. And even when you think about that, what you just said, Marnie, what's important too is also to exercise presence. And a lot of times when people are going through, if they've been wounded, they're looking for your attention, your undivided attention in the moment. You can't be, your mind is over here and they're right in front of you, and you're not giving them the attention that they're looking for, because they want to feel better. They want to pour out their heart to you, and they want to know that you genuinely, you care. And the more you express that, the more that they're going to be able to share with you. Yeah.
Well, and I think what you just said right there is, if we don't genuinely care, we won't be able to do that.
No.
We have to actually have the compassion of Christ flowing through us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And especially when Cynthia was talking about the love of Christ, and we think about, we're doing ministry. And we don't know where people are coming from. We don't know what their backstory is, but every one of us has a story. But if that person trusts you and they want to open up, we want to be present so that they can feel like they can pour to us and let us know what's going on with them. Yeah. Absolutely.
And we're going to keep going here because I want to get to these other points too. So some tips for ministering to those who are emotionally or spiritually wounded.
We want to validate their feelings. We want to let them know that it's okay not to be okay. Because see, what happened is that when the prior conversations, and someone was talking about we're not perfect and we all have flaws, because I was blowing up the chat. I just want you to know. But what happens is that when we can show up authentic and we can show up as the imperfect beings that we are, it gives them grace to be able to say, well, it's not just me. Because sometimes when people have experienced woundedness and they've gone through situations, they think it is just them. But when we can express genuine care and give them space and validate their feelings, when we're ministering to them, they're going to open up, and they're just going to open up their heart, because all they want to do is feel better, and they want to know that they're okay.
Speaking of Jesus with the woman caught in adultery, and that's how everybody feels in a church.
Exactly.
Like everybody around me has a stone in their hand, and all they have to do is let go, and I'm going to be in pain.
Ooh. Absolutely.
And we have the opportunity to be the Jesus in the moment, because that's who we really are. We are full of him, right?
Absolutely.
So why are we throwing the stones? Why are we the ones throwing the stones? We have to really step back from that.
Absolutely. When we think about prior conversation, we have to seek the face of God in prayer. God, how do I go about ministering to this person that's right in front of me? How do I encourage them? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And try best you can to stay with the heart of God and not to step into the seat of judgment. Because honestly, you guys, I've done deep spiritual wounding prayer ministry with women for decades. And you have no idea
none
what these women have been through. You cannot fathom what your women have been through. Absolutely. And when you try to judge based on your life and their behavior, there's no comparison.
Absolutely. Because it's their story, not your story.
It's their story, right?
It's their story, not your story. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you'll know that you're making progress when they begin to share their deep hurts with you, which brings us into the last most important point that I want to talk about here. Because honestly, when you start hearing the stories of these women and they start pouring their, I'm going to say, junk on you, you have to know how to take care of yourself, or you will immediately burn out. You'll be done.
Well, Marnie, you cannot, and Cynthia just shared it, you cannot pour out of an empty cup. Yeah. And when we're talking about ministry, the very things that we teach other individuals to do, we have to make sure that we are partakers in our own self-care. You have to make your wellness your number one priority. And so many times we are going to be faced with various challenges, but we have to take time out to self-care. We have to take time, I call them me time moments. Those me time moments are moments where you set aside to be quiet, to just take a pause, to put a pin in it, as you will, so that you can refuel yourself. You're going to allow the Spirit of God and the Word of God to minister to you at your point of need, that when he pulls you back out, that you're effective in the lives of others. And we think about the Sabbath rest. He knew we needed the Sabbath rest. That's a time for us to be replenished spiritually by his word. And when you think about that, when you go on and on and on, and a lot of times we think about woundedness, some individuals, when you talk about church hurt, they've been wounded by individuals that are tired.
Yes, right. Just out of gas, really. Yeah.
Out of gas. So they just, what I call bleed on them. It's not intentional. It's because they're tired and they haven't taken time out to self-care. So self-care, creating balance is so important. If we don't do that, we will be ineffective in ministry.
Yeah. So I always talk about, we are the cup.
Yep.
What's in the cup is either the best we can bring to the table, our own toxicity, or it's Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
And when people come and suck on our lives, what are they going to get? They're either going to get what, if we're submerged in Jesus, they're going to get Jesus. If we're outside of that, if we're just doing the best we can, they're going to get the best we can. And sometimes that's our own toxicity. And what, as you were talking, I was thinking, when our cup is completely full of God and their junk, their pain, whatever comes into this sphere, guess what? It doesn't go in. It is covered by the living, healing word of Christ. And it doesn't even affect what's in us, because it is flowing right over. We're receiving it, but it's not coming in. And it's so important, you guys, that you get this straight before you go into this full time, because otherwise you're going to be swamped and you're going to be giving out toxicity, and that's not healthy.
It is not healthy. And when we receive it, we have to go before God and we release it and give it to him. But we don't
it immediately. You do not carry it. You may not. Yeah, if you carry it, it'll bury you. Your shoulders are not that broad, but God's are. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, so beautiful. You guys want to learn more about Sherril over at empoweredtoinspireyou.com, also womenspeakers.com. Thanks for being here, my dear.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Our next guest is Kathey Batey. She's a domestic mediator, change coach, the author of 11 books, a speaker, and the women's ministry leader for single moms and divorce support groups. She helps women leverage drastic change through brave strategies to become the authentic souls they were created and always wanted to be. Welcome to you, Kathey.
Thank you, Marnie. It's wonderful to be with you. I have taken note. I love these women. They're amazing. So thank you for allowing me to be with you today.
Yeah, I love it. And I love what you're bringing to us here. Thank you so much. So your heart, your ministry, your passion is to help women get through the huge traumas that blindside us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to hear what you have to share with us. So first, how do we navigate drastic change that we never saw coming?
Well, boy, it's tough, because our bodies are normally going to go into shock because we weren't expecting it, and it's surreal to us. And then we're going to have to start the grieving process. So I don't know that you can prepare for this, other than I do love the quote of Corrie ten Boom, who said, to hold everything in your hands loosely, otherwise it hurts when God pries it from your fingers, pries your fingers open. So, and we can prepare for drastic change in realizing that this life is passing and we don't get to keep anything except for our relationship with Christ. And so to prepare for drastic change, God is not surprised, realizing that God is not surprised that this has happened. And I deal primarily with people going through divorce, and they are totally many of them are totally unsuspecting. They can't believe this is happening to them. But God knows, and God is not divorcing you, and he's not letting go of you. And that is so important for us to realize as we face a small change we need to grieve, or a huge change, such as going through divorce or death of a spouse or life change in many varieties.
One of the things I always have counseled women to do is take time to grieve, even if it's the grief of, we were married without children and now the baby comes in, and it's the grief of, we don't get to sleep all night anymore. We don't get to go on dates anytime we want. Our money seems to be all gone now. Whatever those grievances are, if we don't grieve it, we can't actually fully enjoy what God has for us next.
Absolutely. And that doesn't mean that we are denying or not seeing the wonder in our child.
Right.
It's just the change, and women are constantly going through change, right?
So much change.
We say stages. I don't think there is a stage. It's like a day by day of changing, of holding our babies and then letting our babies go, of believing that we're going to be in this situation forever, and then it's taken and stripped from us. Those drastic changes that all of us face.
Yeah, and they just keep coming.
Yes, they do. They do.
Yeah. So I want us to talk about, I love the word curiosity. And why is it so important when you're facing an unexpected trauma, pain, change?
Yes. Curiosity is something that, in the immediate, when you're facing the death of a spouse or a huge life change, a divorce, you're not going to be curious. You're just going to try to survive.
Right.
And that's the people in my group. When they first come in, they are very raw and very broken. I don't want them curious. But eventually, when they get through the grief, they've allowed themselves to grieve, we get to a point to where we say, and my workshops go in for 10 weeks, and we cover emotions, decisions, acceptance, and moving forward. We get to the point to where we accept where we are. And that's so important, because we can't move forward until we do accept. And then we begin to be curious. What now? What does God have in store? And that's where our faith comes in, right? What does God have in store for me? He has not abandoned me. He has not divorced me. What does he have in store? I'm curious. And so we can dig deeper into, I always tell my groups, the Psalms understands. You want wisdom? Go to Proverbs. The Psalms understand where you're at. So be curious and understanding that God is not abandoning me. This is an awful thing that has happened. I'm going to have that self-care, which you talked about, so important. But then I'm going to, what now, God? What's possible now that was never possible before? So this painful time is also an incredibly powerful time, because we can leverage this to begin to have faith and believe and be curious. What's going to happen now? It's like a great movie when you're sitting on the edge of your seat. Like, what's next, God? What's next?
Except you're the heroine in the movie, and you got to go through all these harrowing events.
Yes.
You got to remember, you're only in chapter 12. You got more chapters to go. The story isn't over.
Yes. Put on your Superman cape and believe in the true hero, which is Christ, right?
That's right. Yeah. You love to talk about how to leverage pain.
Yes, I do. Again, pain is painful, but it's also powerful, because there is a rawness that happens when we go through intense pain that is not replicated in any other way. There is a sensitivity to God and his spirit. And we've not been listening before, but we are listening now. We are listening now. So as we use this rawness to draw near to the Lord for comfort, I tell the people that I work with, in the middle of the night when you wake up because you can't sleep, ask God to hold you. Ask him to comfort you. Ask him to be present with you. So this rawness, to leverage it, is for us to see what's important, really. Okay, I have spent all of my years building up or investing into maybe this marriage. What's really not that wasn't, I'm not saying that wasn't important, but where are my priorities now? First, I've got to survive. I've got to grieve. I've got to heal. Got to work on my healing. But leverages can change this, using this rawness to gain a deeper relationship with Christ and learning what are the risks that I need to take to change my life and move forward, because nothing changes without risk, right? So we have to be able to Be willing to take that risk. Again, I'm not going to ask you that day one when you come into my support group and you're raw and you're hurting.
Yes.
I'm just saying, honey, just survive right now.
Right.
Talk yourself through an hour at a time.
Yeah. Right.
That's a success for you right now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to talk just for one more minute about the role of grace.
Yeah, absolutely. God is so gracious during our time of grief and heartache. And a bruised wick, a reed, he will not smolder. And so this is a time really when God's grace comes to you. It's not judgmental. It's not saying, well, you deserve this. This is your bed. Now lie in it. And that's the perception some people have of God. But that's not who God is.
No.
Not during this time. It's his grace. I'm going to hold you. I'm just going to hold you right now. And that's all you need. I want to hold you. And that's what God is saying to us in our rawest times. And that's what we hold on to. Not what we did wrong, what we did right, whether we're right or wrong, whatever. I'm going to hold on to this grace of God because it's going to carry me. It's going to carry me through these days. And it is so essential that we just hold on. God is he's not blaming you. He's not shaming you. And shame is a huge part as people go through divorce and drastic life changes. Oh, I should have done this better. That's the devil's greatest tool, is to shame you, because it paralyzes you and you cannot move forward from it. But God's grace says, open up to me. Come to me. I'm going to carry you. I'm going to work through this with you. I'm going to deal with this situation. Trust me.
Yeah.
And it is a grace that is so dependable.
Oh, I love you. I love how you communicate. I love your heart for hurting souls. And you guys need to check more of this out over at spiritedpresentations.com, womenspeakers.com. Kathey, Batey, thank you so much for joining us here today. Thanks for sharing your beautiful soul.
Thank you, Marnie, for all the things that you do.
Thanks. Linette Rainville is a women's ministry mentor at Life Church Buffalo and founder of Daughters United. She is the mom of 2 grown children and Gigi to 2 grandbabies. She loves to ignite passion and inspire the start of new outreach projects, leaving you encouraged and equipped to reach your community with the life-changing love of Jesus. Welcome to you, Linette.
Hi, Marnie. Back.
Welcome back.
Thank you for what you do. I just love I'm just soaking it up. Everyone has thrown out such amazing nuggets today.
Yeah. I too just always marvel at how these come together. They're so cohesive. It covers all kinds of aspects of it, and everybody brings their own beautiful perspective of God and ministry together. So thank you for being here. We're going to talk about sisterhood. Love that so much. And you are the girl. So talk about connective tissue. What does that mean in women's ministry?
Well, you know how you go to church and, you can go and sit in your same row and see the same maybe 2 people on either side of you and leave and not make any connections. And I'm just like, no, we can't do that anymore. We need to have intentional connections. So that means, okay, what does our student body, so to speak, where are they at? And I talked about this before. There's women in different seasons of their life. There's different, and I love it. I'm still learning everyone's names, but the wounded woman sister, that is huge. So that's another aspect of some of the tools that I bring forth. So I'm the mission builder coach, and I'd love to help take women who they just know there's something that God's calling them to do, but they don't know exactly how to walk that out. And especially in hands-on brick and mortar outreach projects. And this is a great way to have connectivity in our churches. There's just, I like to say, we need to know our who, our what, and our how. So the who is, if we really want to grow this is about growing our women's ministry, right? Yeah. And reaching outside the 4 walls of our church. My thing is get out of the pews and get out into the pavement. Well, how do we do that? Yeah. Guess what? They're not just organically coming into our church doors anymore. So So what do we do, and how do we get to know who they are? So that's the first thing. Who is the need? I say that all the time. This is the first thing we talk about, is who is your who? Who are you called to reach, right? And the second thing is what? What are the resources that you already have in your disposal, because you have something in your hands already that God wants to use? And then the last thing is how? How can we make the most impact?
Yeah. So we want to go into that one a little bit too, because now they came to something awesome. We got them past the church pew. Now they're at some kind of a women's Bible study or event or something. And now how do we move them from I'm here to I'm part of this?
Yeah. So they're there. And the one thing that I love is to say, okay, let's do an incubator. Let's sit down and let's pull our resources, pull our ideas. And you know what? You get buy-in, you get ownership. Yeah. You get people that are like, oh, I'll do that part. I love making brownies, or, I love, doing a craft item, or I love watching the kids. That's how one of our mom's events that we had this one lady, and I just put the idea out there that I wanted to do a Moms Are Us event. And she called me like 3 times and she said, I want to be your babysitter. And I said, guess what? I've been praying for someone to be our babysitter. Right. So really fitting people where they really mesh. Yeah. And it's the call. You're activating the call in them. And we're bringing it right back to their feeling they have that longing for belonging, and they're using their gift. Yeah.
So what have you seen done really well in sisters reaching to sisters, in that not the leader reaching down, but the sister to sister?
So this is the thing. I have one event, and it's called a closet swap event. And this is just one example. Okay. You have, and it could be anything. You could do a purse project. I have a whole list of them, but this is the free guide you're going to get if you go click onto the portal. But this is basically, the concept of, hey, bring 10 things. We're going to have this little event, and in that, everyone shares a little bit of a story of something that, was in their closet. And it's just a great mixer of where, and then people can shop from each other's closets. And then the leftovers you bring to like an outreach center or, a battered women's shelter, something like that. So that it's a win-win-win, because you're meeting a need. It's like, oh, I needed a new sweatshirt, or, but then you're also cultivating these sister bonds. They're working together, and they know that, the leftovers are going to go somewhere. And this spurs on those incubators. They're like, well, you know what, maybe next month could we do this? Or, so it really, again, it goes to the buy-in. But the other way to cultivate sisterhood, and this is something that we're spurring on a pilot project, and it's called a sister-to-sister cafe, where, again, our sister friend who's dealing with the wounded women. Yeah. This would be an evening event where you would have a cafe, and you would have different tables set up with placards there that have the topic. If it's, again, it's very sensitive, so you kind of say it this way. If you or anyone you know has maybe dealt with addiction or abortion or abuse, because a lot of times it's not just you, but someone in your close family or friend dealt with suicide or divorce. These are the things, and I'm really seeing that the next generation, if we're really going to be legacy builders, this next generation is looking for this authentic connection. And especially, this is a super opportunity for the Titus 2 woman to get up and out, connect with these other women, I always say, this is what God does. The pain, we're going to have stuff happen in life. But how we choose to repackage that pain, now turn it into purpose, that we can help the next one in line, right? Because we know, and I love how she mentioned that, we're dealing with this in astronomical numbers now after post-COVID. it is just all over the place. And the last thing people need to feel is isolated. So you create an environment where it's a safe place. And yes, you have some fun, do some mixers first, have some worship, but then you get serious and you say, you know what, we want to be real. And this is a place you can be real. And
so do you have a way to communicate on that one? Do you have a way to communicate to the gals that are just maybe that they don't relate to any of those placards, but they came tonight?
Yes.
So would you just encourage them to, what would they do during that time?
So in like just a general event.
In the evening event. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Basically, wear love. How can you wear love to someone else? We all have a mission, and that is to disciple, that is to love on people. So I would just say, you know what? Find someone that you can really connect with. Like a mixer could be, hey, find someone who's wearing the same color as you and just tell them 3 things about you. Make this connectivity.
Do that first. So you start breaking down the walls first with kind of a group mixer. And then when they go into the groups, or I'm even thinking a lot of times a gal that needs ministry won't go into a group and will disappear into a bathroom or into a hall. And have your gals that are, willing to circulate to find the strays. And
well, you can also, it doesn't have to all be these hot topics. They could be equipping.
Good.
Our 5 pillars is life, marriage, so relationships
Sure.
would be fun too, right?
Yeah.
Family, kids, identity. So this is where a lot of these fall in identity pillar. But then so you can have
some that aren't so hot.
Right.
Yes. Right. Great. Yeah. That's what I was missing. I was like, what do all the rest of the gals do? Because you want to have the safe places. Yeah. And we're out of time, but honestly, this was so good, Linette. And I love everything you do, my dear. So just, you guys want to check out LynetteRainville.com. Also, she's over at womenspeakers.com. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Okay. Our next guest is Julene Litke. She's the executive pastor at Paseo Church in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. She's the mom of 2 adult children, Nana to 3, and wife to John for 41 years. She loves equipping and empowering women who are uncovering self-imposed limitations, developing their potential in Christ, and leading women's ministries. Welcome to you, Julene. Hey, welcome to you.
Well,
we can hear you.
I am not hearing you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. Yes, we can hear you. Shoot.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here. I am not hearing you, Marnie.
Well, then I want you to just talk. Just you go ahead and share with us your heart. You just go talk. Okay, so she can't hear me saying that. Shoot. So I am not sure what we can do about this in the real life moment here. Do you have headsets you can put in, Julene? Do you have headsets you can put in? And maybe not. Oh, ba. Okay, while we're working on that, she's going to exit and come back in. This one is talking about the power of personalities in communication. So I'm just going to start here. Victoria, as she comes back in, you can just put her on the screen again. So as I'm thinking about this, I have over at Marnie.com, there's a free resource that you can get if you want to take your women's ministry through a personality test. It's one that I created myself. It's a 1-page. On one side, they take the test, and then you can give them either on the back side the key, or you can give them a separate sheet of paper for the key. It takes about 10-15 minutes for them to do the test, maybe 10 max, I'd say. And then add the key that you can go through together. And what you do is whatever group they get the most score in, you divide them into corners of the room, one corner per category of personality type. And it gets them to see others who are similar in personality to what they have, as well as it helps to just identify their own personality. I just did this at the Well conference a couple weeks ago, and some of the gals that were in there never had seen themselves as leaders until they did that survey. And they were like, wow, I really have leadership capacity. And so as you take your women through the leadership skills, through the personality test, you're going to help them identify both some maybe skills that they have, some tendencies that they have, but also it's really fun to help your gals recognize that while they see things this way from a fun personality or from a organized personality, other people see things differently, and that they can recognize that just because somebody sees something else differently than they do, that it doesn't make that other perspective wrong. It just makes it different. I did this personality test thing. I was doing a big conference for women in the Philippines, and a bunch of churches from all over the Philippines, all over the islands, came together for this women's conference. And as we did the personality test, I had them go with their own churches into separate spaces to do these personality tests, and then they came back. And what happened when they came back was they came back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Yes. Let me just finish this story, then we'll bring you in here.
Sure.
When they came back from their small groups, there were many tears being shed because they realized that they had, as a group, they had gotten rid of the fun people from their churches because they were all so serious. They were Bible studies, gals, and they were leaders, and they were organized, and they had really gotten rid of all the fun people. And they saw from this personality test that they did that was just a way that God made some people differently, and that he wanted us all to work together. Julene, we are short some minutes here, but we're going to just dive right in and go as quick as we can. I'm so excited to hear what you have to share.
Yes, for whatever reason, I had to switch to my laptop, but at least
That's
I had
okay.
that, right?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Well, Marnie, communication, it is the sending and receiving of a message. And we know that body language, emotion, and personality, so many things go into this. And each person has a unique lens through which they communicate. And it's comprised of their perspectives, their beliefs, their past experiences, and their personalities. And an insightful leader will understand themselves, but then they will learn the personalities of those that we lead. Because this will, people don't always receive the message we think we're sending, right? But when we're aware of people's personality traits, that really can help us head off some conflict.
Yeah.
And so, learning people's personality traits is very, very helpful in leadership, and especially when you're working with larger teams. And so knowing yourself and knowing others is crucial.
Yeah, I love that so much. One of the things you like to bring out is that as a leader, you need to start identifying and developing key members.
Yes, absolutely. And we have an advantage being in ministry to be spirit led in that.
Yeah.
But then doing due diligence on our part, we want to learn each person's burden, their passion. And we also want to be mindful of their spiritual health. We want healthy leaders, but also as leaders, we need to be faithful stewards of the spiritual health of those that we're leading. And so being mindful of that. And as you observe your team members working together, those with leadership abilities, they will stand out, but be watching for good soft skills. Successful leadership is underpinned with strong interpersonal skills, such as emotional intelligence. That's huge. Communication, conflict resolution, and learning the different personality types and how they interact. And then you want to develop those leaders. Some leaders will just assign them to leadership roles and then let them go. And you want to communicate. You want to communicate your expectations and then train them, equip them. But don't stop there. Then, because a lot of leaders do, but then empower them Let them do their job. That means let go of it.
Yes, for sure. And don't throw them into the deep end. Let them gradually learn, but then when they're ready, let them soar. Let them soar.
And they're not going to do it like you will.
No.
And that's okay. They won't load the dishwasher like you will. It's okay. The dishes will still get clean. And if they don't, they will learn and they'll adjust. But they need that space to grow and to develop. And we need to allow that. It's tempting sometimes for leaders to just jump back in and tell them how to do things. Yeah. Well, I really want it this way, but Genesis 1:27 says we're created in God's image. And these ladies that we're leading, they are brilliant. They're creative. They're imaginative. They're resourceful. Let them operate in their strength. You will be amazed at what they will come up with that you would not have come up with. Yes. And when you want to jump in there and do that for them, you squelch their growth. And really you can crush their spirit too. Right. And we never want to do that as a leader. We want to support that growth. Amen. Amen. Well, we have 1 minute left. If you can believe it, this goes so fast. But if you were to say your favorite insight for helping unite, flourish, and resolve conflict in your group, what would it be? I would recommend that each group do a personality assessment as a group in person. And it doesn't matter really which one you choose. Choose what works best for you. Yeah. Of all of the ones I've taken, they've all been right. Okay. And let them experience each other's personalities, get to know each other's personalities, see how they complement one another, and learn how to communicate with love and respect in a constructive way to work out those issues. It's empowering. We need that. And, the final thing would be create a culture of mutual respect and love and grace. Show each other grace. But you can communicate just about anything when you communicate with love and respect. Oh, so beautiful. Well, we could talk about this for hours. I love this topic too. You guys can learn more about Julene over at nextlevelleaders.com and also at womenspeakers.com. My dear, thank you so much. Thanks for your tenacity and for getting back on here with sound. My personality. That's right. You're not going to give up. You're not going to give up. Right. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Marnie. Thanks. Yeah. Cheryl Weiss is a wave maker. She's determined to make a difference in the world, one act at a time, one person at a time. This may include taking a meal to a new mom or someone recovering from surgery, taking care of someone's yard, or simply sitting with someone who's hurting. She's here to talk to us today about being a pastor's wife and an accidental women's ministry leader. Welcome to you, Sherril. Hey.
Hallelujah. We made it.
We made it. So I was talking to you. I first met you just a few months ago. I was talking to you and you were talking about being a women's ministry leader and that you had accidentally fallen into this role. And I was like, oh, I want you to come and share at this summit because I think a lot of you guys out there can relate to this. You didn't get up one morning and say, you know what I want to be is a women's ministry leader. But here you are, you found yourself in this role and you're like, now what? Yeah. So maybe define first of all what it means to you.
So for 27 years, I was a stay-at-home homeschool mom, wearing the sweatpants and the t-shirt and rocking all the different courses with my children. And I didn't grow up in the church. In fact, my first two children were 6 and 8 respectively when I started homeschooling. And so we had a lot of baggage and God just drew me to homeschooling. And I was like, there's no way I could do that. And this is my response to God calling me. I was like, I'm sorry. I think you have the wrong girl. And 27 years later, I was in a really rough spot. And with a lot of other people, it was 2020. And I had just gotten a phone call a few months earlier from a friend who my husband went to a preaching school with. And we were friends, but we hadn't talked a lot over the course of 5 years. She calls me one night and she says, Sherril, I hope you don't mind, but I just put your name forward to be our speaker at our women's retreat. And normally there are 3 women over 6 days and they each take 2 hours. And would you please do all of it because
Oh, wow.
they wanted you to. And I said, I'm sorry. You know you're talking to Sherril, right? Did you call me accidentally? Are you sure that you have the right person? And I said, I'm gonna have to pray about this, because she was like, yep, I'm sure. And I said, I don't know what to do with this. This is not on my radar. This is not something I thought about. And I called my husband and I said, honey, you would not believe the phone call I just had. And he said, you said yes, right? I said, no, I didn't say yes.
Yeah.
Can I introduce you to your wife who's at home, busy?
Yeah.
I got 7 children at that point. I have 13 total, and 7 of them that I was homeschooling at that time. And I said, babe, they want me to go to Louisiana. We live in Texas.
Yeah.
This is not what I expected. And then COVID happened. And I poured over this decision that I had already said yes to, because my husband highly encouraged me to. And when I prayed, the Lord didn't say, no, you can't. And I eventually did it, but everything was shut down for so long that I was pouring over these lessons over and over and over. And they changed like 20 times.
Yeah, right.
And I said, what are you doing, Lord? What are you doing? So I get excited about this, and now this. And anyway, the event happens. It doesn't happen perfectly. I am who I am. And I just did my best.
Sure.
And I said, okay, that's over with. Well, because it was COVID, we had 20 women friends who were pretty close, and we were noticing that they were needing something else to listen to than all the voices they were hearing. And we said, let's do something. We just get together on Zoom or whatever and just chat with them and pray with them, and let's talk about what do we do during this time. And then God brought me a course that I signed up for, and it was incredibly helpful for me as a person.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, me just pouring into these women and my other 2 friends pouring into these women, we went from 20 women to 1,000 women in a short 9 months. And I said, how did that happen? We were just surviving, and what I was learning, I was sharing. And I began to realize that's exactly what the disciples did. That's exactly what the apostles did. They learned from the Lord, and they shared what they learned. And that's how I became a women's minister.
It's so amazing. Yeah, it's so amazing. And to just, I think the key of what you said to me was just saying yes.
Yes. Well, I told the Lord, because I remember I'm actually in my bed and I'm praying and I'm really depressed. Okay. And I'm struggling, and I said, okay, Lord, I need to rise up. I need help. I need to rise up. I need to overcome. I know this, but I need your help, because I just can't. Whatever you tell me to do, I will do. And that's how this course came. And I was like, wait, is this the thing I'm supposed to say yes to? Because it's not what I would think you would send me.
Right.
And it wasn't even in the Christian realm, this course. And so I was, what is this what you want? Okay, I'll say yes. And if it's not, then you're going to have to put the brakes on. And every step of the way, that's what I've done, is I've just said yes. Lord, if you ask me, somebody says, will you do this for the Lord or for these women? I will say yes.
Yeah. And I have found, I don't know about for you, but I have found that the only real pain is between the ask and me saying yes. Once I've said yes, it's not like there isn't work to do. There is. But the pain is between the ask and the yes.
Yes. And it's between this temple and this temple.
It is, actually.
It really is. Because the minute I say yes, then all of this goes away.
And now we just are curious. Yep. Now we're just curious and we're watching for what's the next step.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Letting things flow through you. I just love that. A lot of times I will get up and I will say, okay, ladies, pray with me. And I will just say, Lord, help me be a window. I heard it from another lady. It's not my original content. I said, help me be a window so they don't see me, but they see through me and they see you.
Yeah.
And they hear you.
They hear you. They see you. Right. So we have 2 minutes. I want you to address, how did you decide, or how do you decide what to invest in as far as how to get better training? So you came into it cold. You didn't have all this years of experience and all that. How do you decide or recommend that others decide how to get more training?
So we did everything free. We had to do everything free, and we did everything online.
Yeah.
We had a few people that we met in person on a regular basis, but everything was virtual, and we didn't have money to invest. It were just families getting by like everybody else. And so my friend she got on the computer and she found all these free resources that we could use to get started. And then my other friend, she found more free resources that we could do, like the images and, artistic things. And I got online and I found free people teaching me, because I am typically the one on screen more than everybody else. And I just we just pulled together all these free resources, because I said, Lord, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to pay for it. And he said, well, wait a minute, because other people are going to need to know how to do this, and they're going to need to know how to do it without investing a lot of money.
Right.
And so we pulled together all those free resources, and we did StreamYard, and we did Canva for free, and we did an email that could reach a lot of people that was free. And we have a list of these resources that we share with the women that we work with to be able to create whatever it is God is calling them to create.
Yeah, you could learn more over at wavemakerslife.com. You wanted for sure to check out Sherril's stuff, as well as she's over at womenspeakers.com. Sherril, thank you so much for being here. And thanks for just being willing to say yes to God, right? I mean, that's the example that all of us are trying to be for our women, but we have to be it first.
Yes, and it has been transformative and life-changing. And if you're praying for transformation, listen, because God is telling you how it's going to happen. And for me, this was the transformation. And it was me saying yes, instead of, I can't, I don't know how, I'm not, good enough. I just, on all that messaging in between the ask and the yes, just trust him. Trust him.
Love it. You can't outgive the Lord. So when you say yes to him, he's going to give you more than you ever give him. And thank you so much for being a role model for that, my dear.
Thank you, Marnie. Thank you. It was my honor.
Melissa Kirk is the Women's Ministry Director at BBC in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. She loves to brag about her husband, children, and 24 grands and great-grands. As founder of the Grace Warrior Ministry, she's here to teach, equip, and motivate you to use God's grace to lead and maneuver ministry successfully. Welcome to you, Melissa. Hi, we are on the home stretch here, saving the best to last. Okay, we're going to talk about transformative leadership strategies. And, we were just closing that other one off with, you can't outgive the Lord. And when you say, yes, I will step into this leadership position, you are going to be so blessed, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You do things that you wouldn't even considered.
Yeah, exactly. In ways, that will surprise and delight you. Okay, so how as a leader can I ignite my women's potential?
Well, I have 3 things. Of course, I teach, equip, and motivate. But off of those, I do believe that the things that you have to do is you have to trust. You have to be willing to trust and to understand and to persist in order to have a vibrant leadership program that compels other women. And you do that, you teach the women to serve, you teach them to love, and you show them a vision that compels them to work together. And then as one of your, I think it was who was it? Maybe it was Julene that talked about empowering. I was listening to her. And so you do all those things just by trusting. First off, you trust in God's plan. It is his plan, and it is in his timing. And all we are to do is to have faith and the confidence. We can't see the end game, but we just trust him that he's going to provide the women, then that he's going to give you the skills that you need to lead them. And then you can move forward. And when you move forward, understanding that God has given each of these women that are placed in your path a potential. And that potential, he has grown inside of them. He has a plan for them, and it may not necessarily be what you think that they need to be doing. It may not be what you want them to do, because there's a slot to be filled, but you just understand that God has a plan. He's put them in your pathway, and he is molding them for that plan. And then just believe God when he says that he can do everything for good. So even if things look a little messy as you're working with them, just believe that God's going to work that out. And then finally, just persist. We just have to be willing to push through. In spite of whatever obstacles come up, if things are just seem to be falling apart, just keep persisting. The Bible says, let us not grow weary in doing good. God has placed us there to do good. So just persist and know that as we do, he is going to clear the pathway for us. And I think if we do all of those things together, then what that actually does, it takes a burden off of us, and it takes a burden off of women. We remember that God's actually in charge. So just trust those women, trust God, understand, and just persist.
Yeah, I love that.
The potential will be ignited.
Yeah. So talk about how to uncover the purpose and value aligned goals, and maybe just, in a couple minutes, like what is that?
Well, that is just, first off, learning to seek God's guidance in everything. And you do that through studying the word. As a leader, it's so important to let these women know that they are to trust God with all of their heart. And if they will just build that relationship with him, study his word, the Bible says that word is a lamp unto our feet. So if we, by example, just keep pushing them to that word, they will grow a relationship. And that lamp on our feet is like showing them where they've been, where they are now, and the more they grow that relationship, then the more that pathway is going to be lit. And you do that. I've heard the personality. You've done the personality test. There are so many things out there available that I use, and that is just uncovering their values, their personality, their spiritual gifts, and their skills, their talents, and just building on that with each of these women. And that will help them say, I can bake cakes and God can use that.
Right.
Oh, I can sew. Oh, I can talk a lot and God can use that to help me minister. So you just learn to teach them to study the Bible, and God will just open up those doors, as the one was saying before, and then just being willing to surrender. God, he doesn't ask us to surrender. He actually commands us to. And that sounds tough. But God, if God commands it, he's going to provide. Right?
I love the focus on trust, and it's what we're modeling as a leader. And it's the most important thing that we can give them is the permission and the practicalities of learning to trust God, because he's got it. And even when things don't look up the way we wanted at all, even when we can't understand what's going on, if we can trust God, we can be at peace, and we can even find joy in the journey in the parts that don't make any sense.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of it, especially
there's a lot of those parts.
It's like, why am I here in this moment doing this thing, right? And,
So we want to spend a moment just talking about, as a leader, how to hold people accountable. So just like in 2 minutes, what are your ways to do that?
Well, a couple of things, and the first one doesn't. It seems almost different, but being accountable first to yourself. We as women, we stay very busy. And doing a lot of good things. We busy, and so at the end of the day, we just crash, and maybe we haven't accomplished anything that God actually wants us to do. So I have a saying that if what you're doing is devouring you, it's not from God. So do something different. And so we can hold ourselves accountable by that. If at the end of the day, we are so beaten down and we feel so consumed, we can know that that is actually not from God. Satan himself is the one that devours us. And then we can either find something else to do or find what we're doing. Maybe it's what we're supposed to be doing, but we're doing it the wrong way. So just take time, slow down, and reassess, and then be an advocate of restoration. So if you're going to hold them accountable, then you have to hold yourself accountable. So if you mess up, say, I'm sorry, and ask for their forgiveness. And then if they mess up, just forgive them, even if they ask for forgiveness or not. And then just also by being accountable, just serve ourselves and just be humble, knowing that they are a child of God, just like we are, and we're to serve them above ourselves. So.
I love that so much. I'm thinking about where we started was the way you get burned out is when you are trying to do it all yourself. And what you want to do is you want to get filled up with Jesus and make sure that everything in your cup is Jesus. And then other people can keep drinking on your life. And because you're just continually refilled with him, you'll always have him to share. You'll know, I just love what you just said. You'll know that you're not doing something right when something's off, when you feel burned out, dry, empty, I'm out of gas, I don't have anything left to give. Because when you're filled with Jesus, he simply never runs out. So either it's time for you to get more of him, it's time for you to change something you're doing, to delegate something, or it's time for you to move on. Maybe it's time for you to step out of that position. And all of those things can happen. We can feel that way for any of those reasons. It's not always just I'm in sin or something. Sometimes God is removing the blessing for you to keep doing what you're doing, and he's got a different job for you. It's time for you to step out and let somebody else step in. So just love
accidental move in, the opportunity to serve.
Absolutely. Well, you guys want to check out thegracewire.com. You can learn more over there. And so thankful. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Marnie. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. And thanks you guys for being here. What a great afternoon. This has been so much fun. Hang on here. This has been so much fun to just share this, all these gals with you and all their insights and strategies. I hope you've loved it. If you have enjoyed it, I encourage you to just share the link over to this page with anybody you know who's a women's ministry leader. They can get in on the loop of women's ministry trainings coming up. Also, they can get at all the free resources over at Marnie.com, and they can watch this whole program, and you can watch it over again as well. Just because we're done doesn't mean it's going away. It's going to be right here for you. So thank you for being here. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. God bless.